Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Harbir Sayan. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me here to learn and to grow. I'm actually truly so excited right now. We are in New Orleans for this Myopia Luminaries forum hosted by CooperVision. I'm so grateful to CooperVision for having me here and to my wonderful guest, Dr. Justin Kwan, for having me and for being here and taking the time out to talk to us about myopia management and the importance of myopia management in optometry. Justin, thank you so much for being here.
It's an honor to be your guest and excited to kind of dive in.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So, Justin, first, let's talk about this, man. We're in this beautiful venue, Antoine's Restaurant here in the French Quarter in New Orleans.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Well, this has been a bit of a recurring event. So kind of came into genesis when we realized there's a whole bunch of doctors practicing myopia management, but there's also superstar clinicians and those that have influence, like whether it's in their association or what have you. And so we wanted to kind of bring in a more higher level scientific, but also relevant conversation so that they can sit around these tables and share ideas with each other. So it's our third time doing it, and really great stuff has come out of it.
That's wonderful. Sounds like it. When you have that many, like I was looking at the name tags of the people who are coming, and I was like, I know that person. I know that person. What? That person's coming?
Yeah.
All those people here in one room, the energy is going to be crazy. So we're here. Dinner hasn't started yet. We're doing this just before the event starts, so we're taking advantage of the space. But I'm really excited for that. So tell me about why, from your perspective, myopia management is so important. We're hearing a lot about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it so important right now for ODs in general to be looking at myopia management?
Yeah, I think sometimes I feel like I live in this alternate reality to what's happening in the trenches. And I miss patient care all the time. But, we'll say stuff like, oh, the World Council of Optometry has made myopia management standard of care over 2.5 years ago. And then all the pediatric ophthalmology associations have kind of gotten behind that and they have their consensus statement. But I think I've read a book where between positivity and negativity, sometimes I think doctors receive standard of care messaging like a negative sort of thing. So it's a little bit harder to rally behind that. And, we've tried different things and tried to move things forward as quickly as possible, but kind of being sensitive that, doctors like yourself are busy and we really need to, lean into that and figure out what are your current needs today and how can we help you in the weeks and months to come to get started with that standard of care without maybe using those words.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about the word standard of care coming off as negative, but that does make sense. I would, now because I've been fairly entrenched in myopia management for some years now, when somebody tells me that they think myopia management should be standard of care, I say, of course it should. I'm the one sharing that message to a lot of people, but I never thought about on the other side of that, the receiving side of it, you might get a little defensive being like, well, you're calling it standard of care. Does that mean I'm practicing below the standard?
Right. Am I any less of a doctor right now just because I haven't had the time to get going? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay, so but we do want to encourage our colleagues to get more involved in this. We want them to start to get, whether we call it standard of care, whether we just say it's something that we want to do to help our young patients.
Yeah.
What sort of pieces of advice do you feel have you been sharing that's helped maybe somebody who's just dipping their toes, not really doing it that well, but would like to get more into it?
Yeah, I think like most things new, it can feel a little bit intimidating. I didn't do a residency and that's okay, but also myopia management has sat in a specialty space for so long. And I think we're trying to demystify that. Not that there aren't complexities, but that, this is primary eye care. It should be simple. We can help make it more simple. And then parents should just know about the simplicity of helping their child's eye health, now and into the future. So we've kind of shifted from the early adopters who've really taken the bull by the horns, done a lot of ortho-K, really have grown with Mysight. And now we're saying for the masses, we need every person, all hands on deck. And it can be quite simple. It doesn't have to be time consuming. It doesn't have to be something you wait and do. You can start today. And that's really our primary message this year.
Yeah, I think that's such an important message. Actually, for me, coming from my perspective in the clinic, I'm encouraging doctors to just have the conversation. Even if you're not actually doing myopia management, if you start to talk to parents about it and share the message and let them know that these things exist, I think you'll get a lot of positive feedback and you'll see how quickly patients and parents are willing to adopt this new form of treatment and management of myopia, because most parents whose kids are nearsighted, most of them are also nearsighted, so they understand. They've been through it, and if somebody was to have given them an option 20, 30 years ago, they would have jumped on it, right? So I think it's just having that conversation and getting the ball rolling in that sense has been super helpful.
And a lot of parents are our age, of the kids that are growing, worsening the quickest. But they kind of grew up on daily disposables too, so it's a very familiar thing. And I think there's just that urgency to it. You're right that, education is a form of treatment. I think in large part we've noticed not a lot of ODs are seeing kids kindergarten through third grade, just in general.
Right.
And I think we have to move in that direction to have any semblance of impact.
Yeah. So I'm speaking to, I'd like to try to speak to people who I think are doing something at a much higher level than me. And so I'm speaking to people within the myopia management space who are doing things at a much higher level. And I'm asking them, like, how many ODs out there do you think are really doing myopia management actively, not just making recommendations, but actually actively seeing patients? And how many young myopic patients are there in the United States or in North America?
Yeah.
And really, when we look at those numbers, it seems like we're just at the tip of the iceberg, really just scratching the surface on how many patients we've actually been able to help.
Yeah.
And there's so much more opportunity there.
I actually put a lot of work behind that estimation because I think a lot of peer-reviewed papers hadn't updated their estimate for a decade.
Okay.
and so one of my ARVO posters from a couple of years ago was using the 2020 census and using some peer-reviewed literature about urban versus rural rates of myopia. And I came up with a new number. It's about 19.5 million kids with myopia.
Okay, that's a lot more than that.
It's age 5 to 17. So other estimates would say 15 million, but I think it's actually a lot higher than that based on my previous work. And that actually translates to kind of bring it closer to home, about 300 kids per OD, as well as 300 kids per OMD, ophthalmologist as well. So in reality, we probably have more like 900 to take care of each one of us.
Yeah, if we're going to be primary care providers, and of course the ones that are seeing the OMD likely are coming through us at some point.
Yeah, because they're more spread out. The pediatric ophthalmologists are only in about 10% of all U.S. counties. So it really is optometries to kind of own and make sure we have such better coverage across counties.
Yeah. Of course, the opportunity is massive there.
Yes.
And I kind of want to keep it more towards like how we can do things in clinic to actually help parents and the kids. But like if we're gonna look at like bottom line, if we're a business owner, I have a business I want to run. There is a benefit. The bottom line is boosted and benefited from adopting this specialty. We can get into that a little bit more, but what I really wanted to kind of go into is what is Cooper doing? Because I know there's a lot of different opportunities and services and products and programs. We can share a little bit about what Cooper's doing to help ODs to get into this space.
Yeah, a great part of my job is I work closely with the Canada team as well. As I think because you all had Mysight in market sooner, and then kind of the program changed a little bit, we've both adapted along the ways and learned a lot. Primarily, we use our myopia management specialists, call them a myopia rep. There's 10 in the US and 4 in Canada.
Right.
And so think of them as a consultant. They can train your staff. They can help you arrive at a set of fees that makes sense for your practice and really customize whether you have 500 square feet or 10,000 square feet, really kind of bring it to life again in the more simple fashion and to get more consistency. Because actually I had a question for you too. I'm wondering, I'm just trying to ask as many ODs, how do you get the children of adult patients in for eye exams? I think if we crack that, then we'll just have a more flood of kids coming in.
So first of all, this is my podcast.
I know.
You're not allowed to ask me. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. How do I get the children of adult patients in?
Yeah, it's a team effort, but
Personally, I feel like that's easy. And I'm sorry not to come off as whatever that might sound like, but for a couple of reasons, and some of these don't translate across borders, all right? But one of them, the one that is, I think, does translate is when you're talking to a parent who's nearsighted, for example. They've gone through this. They've lived it. They know what it's like to have to rely on their glasses all the time. And then you sort of tap into that a little bit, And the one sentence that I feel like that works well for me, there's two, right? They call it the silver and the gold. All right. The silver sentence is when we were younger, Justin, we didn't have any of these options. We just had to wear our glasses. And you had to rely on that. It doesn't matter if you're running around, you're playing, whatever you're doing, you had to wear your glasses. Now we have options that can help our kids, that they don't have to go, we can help to slow the progression. They won't be as dependent on their glasses. Perhaps they'll have more options available. That I feel like really resonates quickly. The golden statement is really when I have the patient in the chair, when the child in the chair, and I say, when we're trying to decide on should we do myopia management, and this is not a sales, this is just a true sentence I say. A sentence is very simple. If this was my child,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now that basically is like, to me, that seals the deal with the parent when they're already there.
Yeah.
Is if this was my child, this is what I would do. Okay. My daughter does wear glasses. Here's what I did.
Yeah.
If you don't have kids, you still use that sentence.
Yeah.
If this was my child.
Yeah.
This is a really important, or you can use, if you want to, a secondary might be, if this was my niece or nephew, something that you actually have in your family,
right?
You can use that statement, but I feel like that really does well. But for us in Canada, the other thing about bringing kids in is that we have in our province, the government does pay for child eye exams.
Oh, good.
And so that eliminates like any reason the parent might actually have, right? That's it. It's covered. Just bring them in. We'll take care of the rest. So, but I think just letting the parent know that we have options available that didn't used to exist when we were younger, that usually does it right there and then. And then the fees are a whole different conversation.
And making sure your staff kind of officially get the children on the schedule.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And then the next step is I'll go to the front and I'll let the staff know as they're checking out the parent. Like also this, this gentleman would like to book your son or daughter in for their eye exam. Please, can we do that? And they'll take care of it from there.
Yeah. A couple of lines I'll steal from our colleagues too, like closing that conversation is, we're just here to put your child in the best path forward, and like you said, we're not selling anything just yet. We have eye health concerns. We have long-term success. Children use their eyes for learning, for performance in all their activities as well. So I think that really rings home, like we're just here to put them on the best path forward. And you mentioned kind of relating back to the standard of care, just doing our job, and sometimes I say like, it's our job to get your child's eye growth back on track. Because right now, it's too fast. It's 2 to 3 times too fast. Their eye is getting too long and it's getting weaker.
Yeah.
It's my job to take care of your child.
Yeah.
Parents, don't let any other medical condition get worse, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, and when we can start showing them some numbers and tracking those, I think it really helps. Like just like you would with any other health condition.
Yep.
You look at your blood pressure, you're looking at the numbers. Is it going up or is it going down? Your cholesterol, is it going up or going down?
Yep.
And the progression of the axial length, is the progression increasing or slowing or stabilizing? I think having those tools and sharing that. Now, at the same time, I want to speak to my colleagues out there. Don't get overwhelmed or don't dwell on the fact that you don't have axial length or anything like that right now. You don't need that to get started.
Correct.
In my opinion, you just need to start having the conversation. All the other stuff comes after.
It took about 12 years for 80% of our profession to buy OCTs.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little bit faster just because axial length is like a fourth of the cost.
Right. It's not as expensive.
And you can recoup it faster too.
Exactly. So obviously one of Cooper's primary kind of flagship product in the myopia management space is the Mysight Lens. How can we encourage our colleagues to get more comfortable using that lens and recommending that lens?
Yeah, I think if you look across your patient population, you have a lot of kids wearing single vision contact lenses, not for myopia control, but just for vision correction. And again, whether they're an athlete or they're in the performing arts, there's so many benefits. So kind of in some way, single vision is the wrong lens. It's a device that lets their disease get worse. And so you can sometimes, you can kind of start there with that patient population and then move younger as you get more comfortable. And that's the beauty of a daily disposable. You don't have to order it and wait for it. It's right there in the office. You can have staff. My mentor at SCCO, where I taught, Tim Edrington, he just said, get a lens on the eye. And I think that child smile and then the parent reacting to their child's smile, that like sells itself sometimes.
I love that.
Yeah, just get a lens on the eye and let the rest.
So a lot of what you just said, Justin, actually, I never thought of it this way, but I see a lot of parallels with fitting on the opposite end of the age spectrum here. Fitting multifocals. Right. So if I were to put a 60-year-old into a single vision, we know they're going to struggle with that. And it's not really the lens. But what I do with a lot of those patients is just get a lens on the eye.
There you go.
I say to the patient, let me just put a multifocal on for you. And then let's just see what you think. And why are we not doing that with young patients? It's so interesting. I never really thought of it that way.
And similarly, that presbyopic patient is not going to really care about the studies or the numbers. Right. Success, they want to know, will it work for me?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way is to, put it on
the lens on that.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered actually more topics than I was expecting. This is really good. I appreciate this.
Yeah.
What else would you like to, any kind of final words, any more like important key messaging you want to share with our colleagues out there who are maybe just starting to get into it or maybe thinking about getting into myopia?
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent in goal setting. So you don't have to have like super lofty goals. I think like, again, setting a 1 week and a 1 month and a quarterly goal, just in anything, to be honest, but start somewhere. What do I mean by that is there's an acronym called SMART. Yes. We've heard: specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely. Yeah. So if you kind of think about, hey, I'm seeing about, let's just say 18 patients a day. Are 3 of them children? If not, how do I get there? Just start somewhere. It doesn't have to be this whole myopia thing first, and you can kind of build the bridge as you cross it, I guess. Yeah.
Again, something, because I see a lot of kids in my practice. In general, from day one, we sort of built the practice to be that, a family practice.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned earlier, a lot of ODs don't have that. And they specifically don't see younger kids. And I always find it surprising when I speak to a friend of mine, wherever they might be basing, or at least in kids. But let's say you're thinking myopia management might be the right thing for your practice, the new specialty you want to bring in. Yeah, start talking to the parents. Yeah, start talking to your patients who are parents and recommend that they can bring their kids in to see you. Yeah, and start to build that side of your practice like that. First, get them in.
Yep.
And then start talking to them. It makes sense.
Yeah, and then have CooperVision support you with the training and the staff, all that good stuff.
Yeah, actually, before we wrap up, I want to just dig a tiny bit deeper into your myopia specialists that you have across both all of North America and Canada and US. We've dealt with ours, and I think I really like having that person you can just kind of call and say, what should I do next? Because this is new.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of parallels to when I was going into dry eye. We had one company, not all companies have this, but one company had that support for us. And that person would come into our office and say, well, you need to set a protocol. You need to set some steps like how you're going to, framework. Yeah. Setting fees is such an important part of the discussion, because people are like, how much do I charge for this?
Yeah.
So really cool that you have that. And so when somebody's going into it, how accessible is that myopia specialist, and how do you get in touch with that person?
Yeah, so each one is focused primarily on about 120 practices or so. And so, they are, tasked with responding quickly via text message, email, phone.
Text message.
Yeah, as well. So
that's my form of
be available at all times, essentially. And so they actually have a rich background themselves. They were hired because they've spent time in a practice, either as an office manager, a contact lens coordinator, a vision therapy, like program director. So they know what it's like working with kids. They were hired because they have skills and experience in that arena. And so they can really kind of speak, I think, staff to staff. And I think that goes a long way. Yeah.
That's amazing. Actually, that is hugely, I think, really invaluable to have somebody who knows how the office actually works. Yeah. It's not just somebody who's been trained, somebody was
selling baby formula.
Right. Just been trained on this. No, they've actually been in there. They got the experience. That's massively valuable. Great. Yeah. So, Justin, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate this conversation.
Yeah.
Again, I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to Cooper for having me here at the Myopia Luminaries Forum, but also for providing the services and the support that you do to the profession and the industry. So thank you very much for that. Everybody who's watching and listening to the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast, thank you very much for tuning in. But also make sure that you check out Cooper and all the services and all the programs that they have available to us to help us get into this very important specialty and serve our young patients and help them perform at their best. Thanks again, guys. See you in the next episode.